Hello everyone, nubkeks here. Welcome back to Nub Raids, and in today's video, it's a champion I've been meaning to revisit. Visiting, if you combine meaning and revisit together, you get visiting or perhaps revisiting. Meaning to revisit Ailil since the release of He-Man because they are such similar champions, and yeah, today I'm gonna be making a case for Ailil and why you are probably underrating him. So yeah, let's dive in. I mean, straight up, I ask you, commenters, what do you think about Ailil? You reply to me, well, Ailil, he's got bad damage, very vulnerable to polymorph. I can converse for both of us. I've got that skill. Um, Now, what is interesting about that? So, number one, I will argue in this that his damage hopefully isn't that bad. But I think the second point is interesting. He certainly is very vulnerable to polymorph. He's stealing buffs on his A1. He is removing buffs or placing block buffs on his passive. He is very vulnerable to polymorph. However, polymorph has become a lot less common, certainly in high-end arena. I'm not sure about more average arena, but in higher-end arena, polymorph is very much falling off. That's mostly due to the prominence of really powerful champions that can run pinpoint gear, such as Commodus, Odin, another great example. And sort of the return of this speed meta because of it, where it's more like go first. And a lot of people you can see on multiple of my characters, intimidating presence becomes extremely powerful. Lightning cage is even there a little bit. But yeah, I feel like you don't actually see a ton of polymorph anymore. Not as much. Going second is just quite tricky these days. And yeah, another interesting thing, because of Marius has also kind of ruined temporal chains, because at 6-star, when you push their turn meter back, it starts activating Marius A1. It's pretty bad. But yeah, so I actually think there's less polymorph, which does give Ailil quite a good chance. I mean, you could indeed run him in pinpoint as well if you wanted to, which would be kind of interesting. One fun thing about him, if he kills an enemy with his A2, he does give himself Stone Skin. If you give him a pinpoint set, 4-piece, I mean, it's kind of a spicy thing. You could just become immune to Armands, at least for that turn, which is kind of different. It's a bit fun. But yeah, I've got a bunch of calculations. We are going to break it down. The fundamental question that led me to this was when I was initially, when He-Man came out and I was comparing the two, He-Man does do more damage, and I leant towards the He-Man side. But now I'm sort of asking, man, did I waste, what was it, $50 on He-Man? And then going crazy to get a soul for him when I had an Ailil waiting who's maybe just as good. Yeah, I don't know. One advantage for He-Man, that's obvious, the speed aura. For me, that's not as relevant because I have lots of good speed aura champions. Like I've got the Lazarius. It's 3% worse than He-Man, but it's kind of good enough. I've got champions that I use in arena: Lady Noelle, Carnage. I've got Gurgo, Aestrid, etc. I feel like I'm not super short on speed auras, so that is one reason for me to move away from He-Man. But for you, that might be a massive reason to use him. If you are low on speed aura champions, he has an incredibly strong one for arena, which can be a very big reason to use him. But certainly, thinking about Siege, for instance, man, Ailil could become kind of interesting, right? Where the Lazarius aura for me is the strongest, or Alessandra aura, whatever, becomes super strong. Marishka aura, and his lack of speed aura isn't such a huge deal. His aura sucks, it's useless. Yeah. I have a lot of calculations. Let's take a look. Some interesting stuff. So one interesting thing, we'll do some gameplay as well, don't you worry. But his passive, very similar to He-Man. He-Man is a tanky damage dealer. It's sort of the thing that normally it's the conversation He-Man versus Georgid. And one of the reasons to pick He-Man is not only the speed aura, but the fact that He-Man is a lot tankier, right? He can really stack up his attack, his HP. He can make himself a lot more survivable, which is a pretty big deal for keeping him alive. Ailil actually does something pretty similar. For every 1,000 attack he has, he's boosting his HP by 2,000 and his defense by 100. This can add up to a lot. And he also fills his turn meter by 10% whenever he receives a buff. Now, the two of these in combination are very powerful. And this brings me back to the question of Ailil, does his damage suck? Cruisin actually did a video very recently talking about Necret plus Ailil. And what he was looking at in that video was This turn meter boost is so ridiculously strong, that because Nekret put so many buffs on Ailil, Ailil with Nekret is the fastest champion in the game. You cannot beat him in speed in Arena, which is kind of it's kind of crazy. But just in general, if we put him with champions who are giving him buffs, what does that mean? It means that we can run him. He's not as reliant on Stone Skin because he's far more likely to take a turn. We can run him way slower with like basically almost no speed because this passive is going to basically compensate for speed. So by building him with like 100 to 150 speed less than you might, let's say 100 speed, let's keep it more reasonable. But you can really build him about 100 speed slower than your other nukers, and therefore you can crank his damage much higher to make up for his low multipliers. And he's also going to be quite survivable. Let me get you some stats here. Okay, so here I've done a bunch of maths, right? Let me actually show you my Ailil build as well, trying to make the most of him. There's still room to improve this a good bit. I have him in 6-piece Merciless, 2-piece Cruel. He has 40% defense ignore from these sets, which I think is kind of crazy. Plus, he's got that chance to decrease his skill cooldown, which I think is very strong because his A2 is actually extremely good. And yeah, if we look at his build, you can see 172 speed. For me, on my account, that's extremely slow. Usually, my baseline for a nuker is usually 250 speed. I've got some nukers more like 300 speed. So he's not quite half as fast as some of them, but he's like 2/3 as fast as some of them. It's kind of nuts. But because we've dropped his speed so insanely low, and because he's got very high base attack, we have cranked his attack up like absolute crazy. He also has a relic on him now for 16% more crit damage. His crit damage is super high as well. Yeah, he's reasonably squishy, very slow for late game Arena, but my goodness, does he have great damage stats. Now, first of all, let's talk about his passive. Oh, and by the way, he does have the Malefic Talon. And yeah, also, because of his passive, we'll talk about it in a second, but I do think Lightning Cage, by the way, is probably his best blessing. Number one, this can protect buffs, so he does give himself Stone Skin. If he kills someone, that can help protect the Stone Skin. Really good. Number two, he gets a buff when enemies get buffs themselves or have their turn meter fill. He gets Lightning Orb. Guess what? Lightning Orb? What is it? It's a buff. That's giving him 10% turn meter. So whenever he gets a Lightning Orb, he gets 10% turn meter, which is kind of insane, actually. It's like such a cool synergy. But yeah, if we start looking at this, 2,000 HP, 100 defense per 1,000 attack, and if I have 8,811 attack, he's getting an extra 16,000 HP and 800 more defense, which is kind of nice. Now, if we go further, so that would leave him, by the way, at almost 60,000 HP and 3.6k defense, which is very good. Now, if we give him a 60% increased attack buff, he goes up to 14,000 attack, which is nuts. And yeah, that would give him a bonus 28,000 hit points and a bonus 1,400 defense, which would bring him to a total of 72,000 hit points, which is very solid, especially for an attack nuker. It's very good. Not crazy, but very good. But he's got a monstrous amount of defense with my build here, 4,200. That is nuts. That is absolutely bonkers. So yeah, compare him to, let's say, Carnage, who I love, but with no blessing. Carnage is no blessing. It's not quite a fair comparison. But with like the 2,000 defense, the 45,000 HP, it's difficult to keep Carnage alive. A champion with 72,000 HP, 4,000 defense. Again, it distinguishes him from the Georgia. It puts him more in that He-Man category. He's not going to be as tanky as He-Man, and He-Man self-strengthens, but it's pretty interesting. It's pretty cool. Let's compare some damage, by the way. Let's do some damage comparisons here. So He-Man, they are not in the same gear set, but I think this is also, again, sort of crucial. You would not gear these champions the same. He-Man doesn't have the turn meter boosting passive, so He-Man is either much more reliant on Stone Skin or much more reliant on very high HP. He-Man's 5-star soul. My Ailil is 4-star. For the purposes of this, it's really the same. Like, you don't care too much about the resist or accuracy. I have He-Man in, for my account, incredibly good gear. And then I think I've got very good gear on Ailil as well. Maybe not quite as good, but really quite far up there. Like, I mean, he's got an attack neck, but it's got lots of crit damage. And like he's got an attack ring. It's mythical, but it's 5-star. It's pretty good, but it's not insane. It's pretty darn good, though. They're both in very good gear, and this is sort of how I would build each of them in actuality. So I think it's somewhat fair. You can see He-Man, he has lower attack. He's got a good chunk more HP. He's got he's got 90 more speed and slightly less crit damage. So yeah, He-Man is sort of giving up attack and crit damage to get like 100 more speed. I think it's a fairly fair comparison. And because he's in Stone Skin, he does have a huge benefit of getting Stone Skin for a turn, but he does not going to have as much Ignore Defense or the cooldown reduction of Merciless. But how does the damage actually work out? So this is He-Man, and I'm giving him increased attack buff as well, so that's factored in. And I also took off Ailil's Relic for the purposes of the calculations. But basically, these are my calculations. To break it down real fast, so He-Man on his A2, he's got a 5.5 attack multiplier and a 0.15 HP multiplier. So that's applied to his HP and his attack. Then he's got 297 crit damage, but then obviously you do whatever, the flat 100 as well from the hit. So basically the 397% crit damage effectively. And then I'm assuming that He-Man has 5 buffs. He-Man will scale up, no question. He will scale up to be stronger because he has stacking up to 50% more attack and HP. I'm figuring we're going to be more focused on the first turn or two of the fight. And I'm saying for the sake of comparison that He-Man will have 5 buffs. 5 buffs. So he'll have 25% more attack and HP. So hence the 1.25, a 25% multiplier on his damage. Going to give him 310,000 damage on his A2. On his A3, it's a 3.5 multiplier. On his attack, 0.2 on HP. So a bit stronger for HP, a good bit weaker for attack on his A3. And because he's got 5 buffs, I'm giving him 50% bonus damage, the 1.5, and so on and so forth. So he's doing 344,000 AoE. How does Ailil compare? So Ailil, as we can see, has way more attack and a bit more crit damage. And here's how he compares. So his A2, actually extremely similar. Ailil's A2, 5 times multiplier, but because his higher attack and his slightly higher crit damage, he comes out very similar. 310,000 for He-Man versus 299 for Ailil. Very comparable, actually. That's totally acceptable. Now, where Ailil really flops is the AoE. He-Man, 344,000 versus Ailil, 203. Oh, no. His AoE is pretty underwhelming. It's not that strong. But he does have the shorter cooldown on his A2. And, yeah. So, it's an interesting comparison. He-Man, advantage, self-buffs increase attack. And he does turn meter boost your team. Pretty good. Ailil, advantage, ignores not only Stone Skin, but strengthen, increased defense, and ally protection. And if he kills somebody, no turn meter boost for your team, but fully heals him and gives him Stone Skin for 1 turn. Ailil, his AoE, pretty weak hitter, but it has very strong utility. And irresistible block buffs for enemies who don't have increased defense or strengthen. Very nice. Only for 1 turn, but still that can be enough to have an impact. And if they do have increased defense or strengthen, he flips them to their negative versions, which is quite good as well. At the very least, it will remove them, which is good. Vulnerable to polymorph, but still good. So yeah, Ailil, there's his masteries. I think fairly straightforward. I haven't talked about his A1. There we go. So just doing more damage, really. I haven't talked about his A1, but his A1 is very, very strong. His A1, it will steal all buffs. All buffs. Just steals them when he hits an enemy for the first time. Another reason he combos very well at Necret. But yeah, let's go. I did take him into some live arena. I was trying some live arena today. So the first fight today, I threw him in. It was a bit of a desperation one. We just got outsped and blown up, which was a bit brutal. It actually looks like we were outsped by a resistance aura, unless it's rearranged the characters, which is truly embarrassing. But then I did bring him in again, and he won. He was able to come in and just one-shot that 6-star Marius, and then it wasn't the toughest fight, but there you go. What we'll do here is, well, let's try him out here. Let's try him against this team. This is cool. It's the Necret team. One thing that I'm very interested about in Ailil, another reason that has drawn him to me, you can see his turn meter already being boosted by that lightning orb a bit. Is one problem with He-Man, and one problem I have certainly with just farming stuff in Arena, is there's not much UDK in high-end live Arena. I feel like UDK is more of a champion who, let's lock him out as well. Okay, great. We'll speed boost. Now we've got lots of turn meter, and we're ready to go. But you can see his HP bars. His HP bar is pretty chunky. He's now way tankier than Lazarius, and Lazarius is already kind of tanky. I guess Lazarius passive will help. Um, but yeah, UDK is sort of a champion who not great for winning fights, but he's very good for losing fights very slowly. That's sort of how I think of UDK. Obviously, he hard counters some champions, but he is a problem for like He-Man, because He-Man can weak hit him and you just can't kill the guy. Ailil has the potential because he is Void. Being Void Affinity is a really big advantage for an attacker. I mean, let's see. Here we go. Bam. 75k. Now we've got Stone Skin. Pretty solid. And getting Stone Skin, by the way, is also hilariously giving us turn meter. This should give us, again, another really big chunk of turn meter. Fantastic. And that's something about Ailil. Yes, his AoE damage kind of low, but he's getting so many gosh darn turns. I think it can add up to quite a lot. Let's strip their buffs here. And then let's see, Ailil probably just finish them off. I don't know, we'll just give her a little love tap for fun. He's going to counterattack for fun as well. Everyone's having fun. We froze her. AoE didn't kill them all. Oh, no, it did kill them all, but Tormin revived. I'm always looking for that pause button to disappear. When that pause button disappears, you know either something has gone very well or very, very wrong. You can see 135k against a Tormin. Not a squishy champion by any means. Looks like that was a pretty strong account. I mean, let's go in here. Brimstone Armans. Wow. It's like Armans is super OP, but he's not very good for PvE content. Well, tell you what, we'll bring him in anyway. Oh, getting our turn meter pushback doesn't matter. I've not speed tuned my stuff quite properly, but that's fine. I mean, let's just see AoE just against this team because we can. Deleted. That's not, I mean, still 400k power, but not too crazy. Let's see. Anything really nasty? There's one. There's a nasty one. Let's go against this. But yeah, I think having this Void champion who can hit through Stone Skin, and I also think maybe when Ailil first came out, number one, he sucked at... do you guys remember when Ailil came out, he would ignore the Stone Skin damage reduction, because you take like 75% reduced damage or something, or 80%, I can't remember what it is. You take big reduced damage when you're under Stone Skin. But, and nobody here has Stone Skin. Fantastic. But on the flip side, oh, we just one-shot them. Yeah, Ailil would ignore the damage reduction, but he wouldn't ignore the Stone Skin shield. So it's like, yeah, he does full damage to someone under Stone Skin. Oh, but they have like an entire HP bar of shield, and he's got to get through that, which is very, very silly. Here, let's try against a UDK. This is actually quite scary, I think. Nice is just always scary. He's actually a champion you often see run with Chainbreaker. I've been using Chainbreaker for my Chimera cleansers and revivers just because sometimes they do get feared or whatever. Let's see how we do here. So we're going to again buff up. We're super fast. Let's see. UDK, bam, 145,000. If he doesn't have reaction, he is simply dead. Let's sleep her. I guess we'll put this on her. She's going to resist. His nice... Oh, he's locked out, I suppose. No, it's just sleep her, wake her up, put her to sleep. Just run her around. Wait, are we? No, everyone's being resisted. That's sad. Well, we can come in. Kaboom, boom, blow him up. Nice does get a lot scarier in Form 2, that is. Hopefully, he will swap eventually. Oh man, we tanked that side of it very easily. I mean, we'll just hit him with an A1. This Nice is quite weak, actually. I'm actually going to boost us up with the Strengthen. And we'll put Hex on him. He resisted. Huh. Is it a high resistance Nice or something? He's not doing much damage at all. We counterattacked, we killed him. Okay, that was kind of weird. The low damage, 5-star, Crushing Rend, nice. Bit odd. Anything here that's very scary? Let's actually just take a quick gander. We'll leave it on full auto. Quick gander at Harima. How's he going to do against her? He doesn't have any inherent ignore defense in his kit, which is going to make him hit slightly less hard. Who is he going to hit anyway? Well, he one-shot Wukong. Is that useful? Probably not, but he did. Now, this is an interesting test, actually. Unpause it for a second. He does not have any polymorph. I kind of want to not do this, so I'm just going to A1 once. I want to see him do his flippity flop, which is the technical term for his move. Okay, she's locked out. Right, Ailil. So look at this. They have increased defense everywhere. Again, he has no polymorph, so no stress, right? We should flip these increased defense. We cannot flip the strengthen to weaken because it's protected. But yeah, bam. Decreased defense, and we just absolutely destroyed them. And now Lazarius should hopefully one-shot everybody else. No, not quite. Man, I mean, Lazarius hits pretty hard, to be fair, but not hard enough. Are you going to one-shot Wukong again? Yeah, okay, you kill Wukong again. Why not? You going to kill Wukong a second time? Nah. Yumiko critting for almost 5,000. That's funny. Yeah, interesting. Let's do one more refresh. Just take a look. I think it's certainly something. Let's try this. I don't know how he's going to do against Siegfried. He might be able to block buff the Siegfried, which could be kind of cool. Can he stop Siegfried getting block damage? He doesn't ignore block damage, sadly, but that could be viable. Let's actually see. Well, Siegfried is protected, so never mind. That's not going to happen, is it? We'll boost up. We could try to one-shot the Siegfried, but he just becomes immune. So let's actually just kill Siegfried's team. Easy. And, yeah. I know you're probably saying, like, but Nub, you've got insane gear in these characters, and that is certainly true. Ooh, I wonder, how does this interact? I also don't know this. Let's interrupt our amazing conversation. Does he steal buffs before attacking? Like, will he do damage? No, he won't, but he steals it. He steals it. But he doesn't actually do damage. That's fine. Still cool, though. Bonk. Finish him. How hard does he hit without increased attack? Funny enough, his defensive boosts also become weaker when increased attack expires, which is funny. Whereas He-Man, when he gets buffs, it permanently ramps up his passive bonus stats, which is nice. We don't see that quite so much. Let's do one more fight. This one's probably the scariest with a 6-star Crixia, right? And let's see how he does. 6-star Crixia. Yeah, this seems like a good sort of final test. But there you go. Ailil, I am going to be using him for the next while. It's been something I've been meaning to do. I am definitely going to test him out and just see how he is. I've got... Look at that. Wow, one-shot the UDK. Yeah, again, to reiterate, because you can build him so slow, he does need to be in a team. He needs to increase attack. It makes him more survivable, and it boosts his damage. You could just use an Arbiter or something. That would be fine. And then he does really like champions like Steefy or Duchess, etc., that are giving him lots of buffs. Necret, the Great. I mentioned that one as well from the cruising video. So you will want to do that sort of stuff. But yeah, I actually think this champion is probably better than we think. And I also think, by the way, the relic system, I think benefits him probably reasonably well, where I think the damage boost he's going to get will probably exceed the defensive boost. I could be wrong about that. But I feel like the damage boost he's going to get is going to be pretty worth it. So yeah, I'm kind of enjoying Ailil. It's fun. I got him before, and he's just been sort of sitting there, not used that much. He also destroys faction wars very quick. But yeah, I think this champ, he's got potential. He is, I think, stronger than we think. And I think that the changing meta has benefited him a lot as well. Is he the best of the best? Probably not. But he might well be worth using for a lot of players. Now here, I didn't see if Mithrala resisted. But if she puts up the strength in, never mind. We're going to kill everyone. For my God. But yeah, I mean, I certainly don't think his damage is lacking. And I think Polymorph is less common. I think it is well worth revisiting this champ. And yeah, I'm planning to use him. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you think. And I will see you all next time. Goodbye.